Ask Me Anything About Politics. This is the show where you can ask anything you like about politics. I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to learn about it. I know it can feel like a bitch. So, this is the show where you can ask all of your questions about politics and no one's going to judge you, no one's going to roast you. There's no debating, there's no name calling, there's no harassment, there's no judgments. It is just good faith answers to all of your good faith questions. So if you got any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat. We will get to answer them. I know that things are really weird these days with politics, all the misinformation and propaganda that is running around out there. What's up, Willie? Great to see you again. So this is the show where you can come and ask your questions about what's real and what is not real. So go ahead and throw your questions in the chat. We will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the outskirts. Everyone is welcome here. As long as you're asking questions in good faith, you'll be given good faith responses. I don't believe in fighting or harassing or debating. I don't believe that stuff is productive. So we just answer all your questions here, regardless of if you are left wing or right wing. Everybody is welcome on Ask Me Anything about politics. Eric says, what do you think about Zionism? I say it depends on how you define Zionism. Some people define Zionism as Israel should be able to take over all of the Middle East, and I don't agree with that. But some people think that Zionism just means that the people who are currently living in Israel should be able to stay living in Israel, and I think that just depends on how you define Zionism. JP says, is there a 2-drink minimum to attend to the show? No, there's not. So you can if you like, but there's definitely no enforcing mechanism for that. Excellent first questions, everybody. Thank you for being here. What's up, JP? Great to see you again. Musking, great to see you again. And about politics, just throw them in the chat. What's up, Georgia? What's up, William Tell? Great to see you guys. Any questions at all? Breaking news. Prince Philip had a long-term affair with Fergie's mother, Susan. It's not really a question, William Tell. I care about people, about royals having affairs. Doesn't really seem to have any substance on the quality of our lives now, does it? So yeah, any questions about politics, throw them in the chat. I know politics can be really intimidating when you first try to learn about it. I know it can feel like trying to learn a new language. So this is the show where you can ask all your questions. No one's going to judge you for, not knowing things or not having learned certain things in high school or anything like that. If you don't know what reconciliation is or the filibuster, it's Rocketeer says, breaking news, I had an affair with her mom too. It's Rocket. I'm getting real tired of people co-opting my having sex with your mom jokes on this live stream. You can do no wrong. Rocketeer. So yeah, any questions about politics, just throw them in the chat and we will get to answering them. Everybody is welcome here. Scaros Twitch says, greetings from Denmark. Hello, Denmark. If you have any questions about American politics, just throw them in the chat. I will answer them. So yeah, everybody's welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. This is not a show for debating. I know there are a lot of shows out there where Republicans and Democrats yell at each other and call each other names. This is not that show. Ewan says, did many Bernsteins fight in the Civil War? I don't know. TKS Daddy says, Trump's scene operations are still ongoing at ICE facilities, blue butterfly zones. Don't know what that means. George Lopez, a tear. That's funny. I think you meant Carlos Benstelia, right? Short says, are the new 50% global tariffs unconstitutional? Not technically. There is a mechanism by which he's allowed to institute global tariffs for 150 days, I think. And at that point, they are no longer constitutional. Congressmen and lawyers have not been able to check on girls under 18, says TKS Daddy. Yeah, that's pretty fucking terrible. Viverino, good to see you. Eliana says, explain me the Israeli Esther plan. I don't know what the Esther plan is. J4 says, what should be the strategy with Iran if it is not war? I mean, obviously, we should have kept the Iran nuclear deal that the Trump administration negotiated, that the Obama administration negotiated, excuse me, and that Trump threw in the garbage for no fucking reason. Now, I don't know. Right now we don't have adults in charge of the State Department, so all they know is let's go to war with Iran. It's it's pretty fucking stupid. Which says, do you think it's Democrats, Republicans, or rich versus poor? Obviously, not all politicians are necessarily bad. It is true that the main, issue that we have here in America is capture of the billionaire class of all valuable resources and the 99% all suffering under cost crises and, uh, market manipulation and misinformation perpetuated by the billionaire class, etc. But it is inaccurate to say that both political parties are equally on the side of the rich. The Republican Party more on the side of the rich than the Democratic Party by a lot. Freddie says, "Are you right wing?" No, I'm not. I'm left wing. Strawberry says, "Are you a socialist?" I'm not a socialist. I'm not a capitalist. I'm not a communist. I believe in a mixed model. Hey, Lana says, "Please investigate about the Esther plan. It's coincide to explain everything about Israel. I don't know what that is." Galactic Star says, "Politics should be kept out of social applications because some of us just want peace of mind." Okay. Well, you can choose not to be here, Galactic Stars. Alrighty. Quintessential says, "Can I ask where you go to truly learn all for this type of live?" I get my news from a bunch of different sources. I try to spread my information diet out a bunch of different outlets so that I'm not, subject to the bias of one specific outlet. The only thing that I don't regularly consume is right-wing media because there's a lot of data to show that right-wing media is the least accurate media that you can watch. Cheryl Canning says, "Do you stand up to anti-white racism?" I mean, I stand up to all racism. Cheryl Canning, do you have a problem with all racism or just anti-white racism? Tom Coleman says, "Vote reform. Only if you want all your whites to be removed sounds good to me." That sounds like some UK politics stuff, Tom Coleman. And if you're more of a Labour Party guy, then you're my kind of guy. Thrash Panda says, "Which data?" I mean, PolitiFact did a bunch of surveys on this, and they found that right-wing media was only 22% accurate. There was a study that came out of some college, I forget, that found that the least informed human beings consume right-wing media. If you want more, if you want more details than that, send me a DM and I will send you over these. Lana says, "Do you believe that Epstein was an Israeli spy?" I don't really know if he was working specifically with any intelligence agency or if he was just useful for all intelligence agencies because he very specifically had damaging information, very powerful people. Mihu says, "A question out of politics, but I don't care. Would you rather become a dog or a cat?" Probably a cat. I value my attendance. Bert says, "I'm here to take my attendance. Glad to join. Thank you for being here, Berts." Kenna says, "What's happening in Mexico?" I saw something about a Walmart that was set on fire or something. So the Mexican military killed the head of the cartel, and so now the cartel members are just like raising hell in different places in Mexico to register their upsettedness with that. iCourt says, "Why always they do problems? Restrictions are not solving problems." I don't know what that question means. All right. Holodomor. I don't know what that is. Wee jabs. I don't know what that is. All right. Welcome everybody to Ask Me Anything About Politics. I am just here to answer all your questions about politics, regardless if they're left wing or right wing. If they're simple or complicated, there's no judgments here. There's no roasting. There's no debating. I don't believe in debates. I don't believe they're productive. So if you're looking for a show where Republicans and Democrats yell at each other, this is not that show. This is just engaging in good faith on the issues and on the substance. So if you've always wanted to know more specifics about politics, or you want to get into some specifics about the different political parties, I'm here to answer all of your questions. Everybody is welcome here, whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, something in the middle, or something on the outskirts. So let's see here. Landon Schwab says, "What do you make of the tariff overturn?" I mean, there's a bunch of stuff to extrapolate from the fact that the Supreme Court overruled Trump's tariffs. Number one being that Trump is going to illegally institute tariffs however he can. Tariffs are hurting America, and so the Supreme Court is trying to protect their 401ks and protect the interests of their billionaire buddies by ruling this way. The fact that there were 3 Supreme Court justices that were willing to vote in favor of Trump being able to keep these illegal tariffs speaks volumes about the allegiances of the Supreme Court to the Republican Party and to Donald Trump as opposed to the law. The fact that Amy Coney Barrett and Neil Gorsuch and John Roberts sided with the liberal justices in this case does not make them good. It just makes them slightly less shitty than the other ones. Fletch says, "Thoughts on new tariff?" I mean, some people were worried that the Supreme Court decision was going to do Trump a favor by making America less, what's the word I'm looking for, unaffordable. And then Trump just went around and said, no, don't worry I'm going to keep all your prices high. Don't worry about that. Pat Doe M says, why so biased? I'm not biased. Sure says, do you believe establishment Democrats somewhat support Trump's agenda? No. I think that Trump's agenda is so far to the right that even those centrist Democrats that we all love to hate are not on board with anything that he is doing. Pat Doe M says, you're so biased, you just say a lot of stuff, but you have no facts for anything that you just said. Everything that I said is fact-based. Fact-based. Pat D-O-M. If you don't ask the question, I'm going to have to boot you. Neo-Luddite eco-fashion accelerationists. I do not care for accelerationism. Let's see here. Albuquerque says, personally, I just want to talk on politics if that's okay. I mean, it depends. You know, if you're saying accurate things, you can stay. If you're saying misinformation and propaganda, then I boot people for doing that. That's the rules here. If you don't agree with me politically, then you can make certain statements. But you know, if you're just here to say propaganda, misinformation, like this Pat DOM person is just saying that I'm lying. That is not a productive thing to do. Like maybe if Pat DOM had something specific for me to comment on, I could truck with that. Ava says, do you think war is imminent? I've seen a lot of talk of it lately. I mean, normally I would say it's 50-50 with Trump because he has the memory of a goldfish, but at the moment it looks as though people in the military are preparing for some sort of action against Iran. Whether or not that fully escalates into a war is anybody's question. Whether or not that leads to boots on the ground, no one can say, but it does seem as though we are prepared to strike Iran at some point. So that's for all the Donald the Dove and no new wars people. All right. Welcome everybody. Everybody's welcome here, whether you are a Republican or Democrat, some in the middle or some in the outskirts. I'm here to engage in good faith on politics. I can answer any questions that you like. If there's always been something you want to know about politics, so you find yourself lost in the conversation, because it can be really difficult to get involved in politics and to learn about politics, this is the place where you can ask all those questions. Odin Son says, disagree with Jared on some fundamental principles, but he is honest and genuine and far from a liar. Thank you, Odin Son. What are some of the things you disagree with me on? Ali says, the going to fight another war for Israel. I'm not going to argue that the Trump administration is not being dog-walked by the Netanyahu government, but maybe we can tone down the rhetoric a little bit. Ali says, what are your opinions on ICE and the methods they are using? Illegal, barbaric, unconstitutional. They're guilty of murder. I can't say enough negative things about ICE. Let's see here. Mick Wave says, what if national bio-positivist anarchist? I don't know what those words mean. What's up, Lady Lisa? Great to see you. Enzo Adring says, what do you think about God in politics? God should not be in politics. We should have separation of church and state, freedom of religion. Don't trust any politician, says divided and conquered. I don't care for that. Don't trust any politician. Some politicians are good. Some politicians are bad. Some politicians are more trustworthy than others. When you paint all politicians with the same brush, you are doing a favor for the worst ones, because it makes it look like they're all the same. Braz says, what's your opinion on anarcho-communism? I don't know anything about it. Enzo Adring says, what if my moral views are based in a God? Then that's fine. You are allowed to. Blue South Rising says, explain the Southern strategy. Absolutely. So, during the late 1960s, early 1970s, the Democratic Party began signing civil rights legislation and equality legislation into law, and therefore the Republican Party was like, okay, well now all these Southern racist votes are up for grabs. Maybe if we become the party of racism, then we can trick all these people, all these racist white people into voting for us, even though we are anti-worker, pro-billionaire. Right. That's generally the long and short. South Rising. Let me know if you need more specifics on that. Odin says, mostly government's principal role. I just think it should be smaller in many cases. I'm open to that argument. Enzo Adring says, but why couldn't I use those moral views in politics? I mean, you can if you like. I'm just saying that we should not be governing based on religious morals, because not everybody has the same religion and therefore different morality. Mad Sweetness, that word is is not acceptable anymore. People get very, very offended by that word, Matt Sweetness, so I would ask you not to use that again. Thank you, Blue South Rising. Mick says opinions on dissolving Ukraine and Belarus to colonize their people. No. Ukraine and Belarus do not want to be dissolved, and so they should not have to. Don't trust any politician says we vote for the puppets. No one really knows who pulls the strings. That's not a productive comment. So I'm just going to go ahead and get you out of my live. Don't trust any politician. So I will see you later. Mad Dog says morals are not political. I think I agree with that. I don't know what that means though. Enzo Adring says not everyone would agree with a government of an atheist. Okay, but I mean, do you understand why I'm saying that if an atheist were president, then that would not necessarily be a bad thing because there's no rule or law that says that our president has to have a religion. Does that make sense? Enzo Adring? Right. Mick, I'm getting a little tired of your reforming the Lithuanian Commonwealth stuff, so if you don't start asking actual questions, I'm going to boot you. Albu says, could we debate over religious freedoms and over how the Biden administration did? No, I don't do debates, Albicus, but if you have specific questions that you want to ask, feel free. Female Fox says, it does when your morals affect your constituents. I generally that. Odin says, but you've opened my eyes on many topics I previously didn't give much thought. I appreciate that, Odin son. Thank you for sharing the live. Carmine. Jordan XN says, Christ is king, according to you. That's not a question, so if you don't ask a question, I'm going to boot you. Enzo Adring says, it does, but can't the president be a religious person and rule with that? I'm an atheist, by the way. Yeah, I suppose if they choose to make their moral compass based on where their religion is, then I don't really necessarily have a problem with that. Alrighty. Stone Emu says, what are your thoughts on cultural jamming's place in modern activism? I don't know what you mean by cultural jamming place in modern activism. Alabu says, what's your opinion on Biden's administration? I think the Biden administration did an incredible job. There are a lot of things that we can be really proud of that happened during the Biden administration. Obviously, there were some things that we cannot be proud of in the Biden administration, particularly his stance toward Israel. But generally speaking, I will take the Biden administration goal, what do you call it? A success list against Trump's success list any day of the week. All right, Genji says, how do we rebuild after Trump? The way we rebuild is that we don't stop. We have to continue doing the work in order to combat what the wealthy and the Republican Party are currently doing. The Democratic Party does not have the power or the resources to do it by themselves. So long as we're not sitting on our hands just hoping for somebody to come and rescue us from all the shit, then we can get out of this. We just have to continue doing the work. Everybody's got to do the work. Enzo Adring says, are you a Democrat? Yes. Albicus says, what could we have seen under Kamala? I'm guessing just a better version of the Biden administration. Jordan says, thoughts on King David Hotel? I don't know what that is. Enzo Adring says, so didn't you disagree religion and state don't necessarily be separated completely? I mean, you're kind of splitting hairs here. Enzo Adring no says, is Kamala Harris honest? I've always found her to be one of the most politicians around. I have 2020 following list says, why are they complaining about Trump's immigration and Obama when he deported more people statistically? So a couple of things about that. I have a 2020 following list. Number one, we're talking about deportations over an 8-year period, over a 6-year period. So obviously, Obama's going to have more people deported. There is a distinction, though, between how are those deportations happening and why are those deportations happening. The Obama administration deported people who were the worst of the worst, and they were deported without stomping on their humanitarian rights. Like, they were given due process. They were told why they were being detained. They were not being tortured or murdered by ICE and CPB. That's the how. The why is they were the worst of the worst, whereas the administration is just trying to ethnically cleanse America of all brown people. Additionally, all of the excesses of ICE and CPB are being encouraged by the Trump administration and his lackeys and our shadow president, Stephen Miller, whereas Obama was trying to rein in ICE and was not actively, calling for ICE to do more dangerous shit. weren't fucking building mass detention centers under the administration. We weren't rounding up citizens and veterans and children who need medical attention. Okay, Enzo Adring says, when I used to live in the U.S., I started to go to our high school. Thoughts on that? I don't think that they should do that. Mugi Kaya says, who would you vote for if you were in the UK? Labour. Crimson King says, how do I become a politician? I want to help the country. Check out an organization called Run for Something. They teach people how to run for office. I have 2020 says, but Obama had lawsuits for kids in cages. You are lying. I do not truck with people who say that I am lying, so you are out of here. Lady Lisa says, we shouldn't vote for politicians based on their religious views, but ones who are for the people. Right. Genji says, what do you think about Mark Kelly for president? I like Mark Kelly a lot. He's a little centrist for my taste, but he's cool as hell, tough as nails, former astronauts. We could do a lot worse. Enzo Adring says, is China passing USA as a world force? Yes, and the Trump administration is letting it happen. Trump and his team are actively giving China the world. They are hamstringing our own development economically, technologically, scientifically, medically. Yeah, it's really fucking stupid. It's really, really fucking stupid. Okay. Mix says, opinions on separating gender from sexuality in the LGBT. Yeah, seems important. It's not just about who you're attracted to and who you want to go do physical things, but also how you see yourself, which gender you see yourself. Okay, Shork says, how would you handle BRICS? That is a massive question, Shork. I don't know if I have the energy for that today. Okay. Still be furnishing bodies, by the way. Yeah, that's a good block. It's the Rocketeer. Dave B says, dozens died when they detained by Obama. Search what the ACLU said about Obama's deportation policy. Cool. Dave B. Did Obama say that was great? Did Obama call all those people who were murdered by ICE domestic terrorists? Were they being encouraged? Did they have a quota? Do you see the difference, Dave B, between the way that Obama handled this and the way that Trump is handling this? Okay. Let's see here. All right, Real Benda says, should Trump just take the L in stride about Scarif decision? He should, but he's not going to. Let's see here. Cave says, I look like Ivan Urgant. I don't know who that is. Is that a compliment? So yeah, how do I handle BRICS? I guess the main thing would be maintaining economic dominance, which means free trade, open trade with all of our allies. What is the value of BRICS trying to overtake America and then trying to subvert that by being that economic power, by being fair in a way that BRICS nations might not be with other nations that they view as being adversarial? Yeah, that's just my shooting from the hip on that one. All right, Eric says, what's your ideology? Progressive Democrats. And then a whole bunch of boxes. Do you agree that if Congress wants to go to war, one of the family members should have to be in the war? I do agree with that. Lady Lisa says, do you think we will ever find out the truth about Trump's crimes he's hiding from us in the Epstein files? I think it's very likely that we will, if we do the work, Lady Lisa. King of Ecuador says, so is there just nothing we can do about Trump? Like, I'm starting to lose hope. So Knights of Ecuador, let's talk about hope. Because I get that, man. I fully understand how difficult it can be to be paying attention to the news, watching what is happening, feeling hopeless because you're just one person and there's so much going on that you feel like you can't have any effect on or can't make things better. So let's just talk about one thing very specifically, which is that your hopelessness, your pessimism, that is what they want. That is what the Trump administration wants. That is what the billionaire class wants. They want us to feel like resistance is futile. They want us to give up. And so even if it's hard, even if it feels like we're never getting anything done, I refuse to give them the gift of me giving up my pessimism. They can go fuck themselves. I am not giving up. There's never a day when we cannot make things better as individuals or as a group. So what can we do? There are a lot of things that we can do. And it can be really difficult to sort of like look at the list of things that we can do and decide what to do. And you can do the work and like not feel as though what you're doing is having any kind of positive effect or anything. But that does not mean that it is not having a positive effect. You kind of have to have a little bit of faith. You kind of have to recognize that when lots of groups of people get together and do the work together, change happens. Mudsking and Trisket, thank you so much. Help me reach my first gift goal of the day. So yeah, if you are looking for more specific things to do, I recommend checking out my Discord channel because I have a whole thread there about things that individuals can do to try to, affect positive change. And so yeah, you can find my Discord by clicking on my link in the bio. D. Scott says, how mind boggled are you about all the Epstein stuff? He seems to have literally influenced major governments. I mean, it makes perfect sense. It's like, this is all the things that we thought were happening, but now we have a little more confirmation of it. It just makes sense, unfortunately. And so when powerful people are implicated in crimes of this nature, then they will use their power to protect themselves and all their creepy ass buddies. And so we have to do the work of demanding accountability and purging all of those people from positions of power so that they cannot protect all of their creepy friends going forward. Kia Girl says, it helps to go out and protest being with like-minded people. 100% agree. Real Bender says, do you think Prince Andrew will serve prison time? I think it's likely, though I don't know if it will be for the scene stuff specifically. Thin King says, and you will fee trade your insurance? I don't know what that means. Righty. We got a hot one here. Knight of Ecuador, are you still here? Let me know. Oscar says, do you agree with Trump? No, I do not. Carmine says, it could just be me, but it seems like the mic keeps cutting off. I'm trying a new thing where I use the same mic for both my streaming platforms, and it could be that there are issues with that. Thank you for letting me know. I might have to go back to my old setup. Felix says, Trump is acting immature. That is unbelievably accurate. C says, opinions on the current state of UK politics. So that's definitely not my area of expertise, but I'll give you my 2 cents. In the West, in America very specifically, we have a problem with judging the Democratic Party way harsher than we do the Republican Party, and I feel like maybe you guys have the same problem in the UK of judging Labour way harsher than you judge the Tories. And so I understand that not everybody's happy with the way that Keir Starmer's doing things, but yeah, I would just say look for that bias. Look for, are we being fair to Labour? Okay, let's see here. Triska says, are we boycotting the State of the Union tomorrow? Yeah, I mean, do we really need to watch the liar get up on stage and lie for a while and then get to watch the Republican Congress that's supposed to be having a job of stopping the shit that Trump is doing? Just fucking applaud him and fucking SSD for the entire 5 hours, however long it is, that he's going to be fucking spewing his bullshit for? Like, yeah, I'm not fucking watching. Absolutely not, man. I got better fucking things to do. Oy, Fee says, what do you think of the West progressing trade with China? I mean, trade with China is a really difficult issue in so much as they're an incredible economic powerhouse. It is so easy for them to make certain things because they've structured their entire society around it. And we've been relying on production in China so long that it would take a really long time for us to sort of like recover from that dearth that we have now. Trading with China, every other Western nation that's trading with China right now outside of America is doing so because America has abandoned them. And so they are giving China this the opportunity to become even in trade and in their economy. You know, this is one of the biggest cell phones in the history of governments. But yeah, if we responsible people back in, you're gonna have to make really difficult decisions about like how many of those resources are we willing to go without just to have a more fair trade policy with China. Isaac says right or left. Left. Carmen says I want John Barron to call in during the State of the Union. That's very funny. We got a real Tyler Durden situation here. At N Boxes. Do I know you? At N Boxes, your thing looks familiar there. Remind me what your name is. I like the president of Mexico. I think she's pretty dope as hell. She's a progressive Jewish woman. Seems pretty cool. Nettoll says thoughts on Mamdani. I like him a lot. Let's see here. Real Bendis' thoughts on the AI with Hollywood. AI does not work great right now, but Hollywood cannot wait to get rid of the fucking, plebes that do all the fucking work for them to make their billions of dollars. So they're going to start shoving the stuff down our throats. It may get to the point where it is really, really good and potentially better than the stuff that humans make and tailor-made for exactly what you feel like watching right now. Obviously, that's going to be a huge fucking deal, and we're going to have to recognize that sometimes the point of making art is not to make money, but the point of making art is just to make it and share your experience with other human beings. So, AI is this huge fucking thing that we're all going to have to deal with at some point. And whether that means we lose our jobs or just there are no more jobs or whatever, human beings are still going to have to survive and live. And so what world are we going to be living in? Are we living in a world that looks like a fucking Running Man where people are just so fucking desperate to survive that they go on a game show where they're going to get murdered by some fucking mercenaries? Or are we going to have a more equitable society where we don't have people flying around on fucking private jets going to golden mansions and golden mega yachts having fucking caviar 3 meals a day? We have to do the work to make sure that we deal with things like AI in a responsible way. Right now, we've got a fucking massively corrupt idiot in charge of everything. So they're just giving the AI industry everywhere. They're saying, oh yeah, you want water even though the world is running out of water? Sure, take all the fucking water that you want. You need to steal some electricity from that fucking hospital? Fucking go for it, man. We'll just charge the hospital extra money to make up for the deficit there. Yeah, it's so fucking stupid, guys. Oh, okay. Isaiah, yes, Isaiah. Isaiah says, do you think the United States should be in the warning in Mexico right now? If Mexico asks for our help, I believe that we should give Mexico our help. But I do not believe the way that the Trump administration does that we have a right to just sort of like aid Mexico so that we can start our own war against the cartel. Mateo says, human nature will never change. Jesus knew the poor will always be with you. Or we can make it so there is no such thing as poor. Thin King says, I like the idea of golden nuts and airplanes. They sink and fall faster from your lips to God's ears. Ideas says, is Stein like a German name because there are a lot of people with Stein in their last name? I mean, it's from Eastern Europe, so it could be Polish people, German people. A lot of Jewish people have Stein in their last name, myself, for example. Okay, and Carrasco says, what are your thoughts on the possibility of civil war in this country? I think it's unlikely to happen. It could happen, but I think it's unlikely. Papite says, why U.S. do not take its promise with Ukraine? I don't really know what you mean by that. All right, Timmy Tim says, do you think the Trump Barron phone call was an AI fake? I do not know which call you are referring to. Mateo says, you don't understand human nature doesn't change. This is why history is cynical and repetitive. I don't believe that, Mateo. I believe that we can be better. What's up, King of Ecuador? I hope that I was able to give you some great advice based on your question earlier about feeling hopeless and not knowing what to do. Just let me know if there's anything else I can do for you, buddy. Alrighty. I'm glad to hear that. All right. Isaiah says, I mean, there are a lot of Americans in Mexico right now, like my dad lives in Cancun. Well, I hope that he's safe. I understand that there's a shelter-in-place order right now in Mexico. Willie says, there's a person named John Barron. Oh, I thought he meant Barron Trump. Isn't that fucking giving away the game that he named his kid after one of his fucking aliases? Yeah, he 100% did it. Like, John Barron is his old publicist. who was him. Like, he used to call up and say, like, all these women are begging to go on dates with him, like Madonna and shit like that. Yeah, that's 100% fucking real. Mateo says, compensation for resources will always be a social driver in, I don't know what MML stands for. John I says, but seriously, where was you when Clav got frame mugged? And are you dealing with it? I'm having a hard time with it, man. My cortisol is spiking like crazy, my guy. Yeah, what do you mean by MML? Mammals. A social driver in mammals. Okay, well, it's been better in the past, so how about we go for better, and not just throw up our hands and go, well, I guess it's in God's hands now. Oy, 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 oy. What a live stream we're having today, everybody. So yeah, we're a little light on questions at the moment. Lady Lisa says, there's a code red issue in Mexico right now, so no one can leave their home. Yeah, terrifying. All thoughts and prayers to everybody in Mexico right now. Magdell says, what do you believe about apartheid and Nelson Mandela? I am in Namibia. I mean, I don't know too much about it. I'm against apartheid and all kind of racial prejudices and discrimination. Nelson Mandela seemed like a pretty good guy. I'm sure he was flawed in some ways. Patrick says, do you like Sinn Féin? Can they bring about United Ireland? I don't know anything about that, unfortunately, so sorry. General Wakawiki says, Trump is right. Ice, ice, baby. That is an exact kind of comment that gets you blocked. I don't care if different political opinions than me, but actually be part of the conversation. Pepite says, do you think tariffs will help U.S. long term? No, 100% no. So listen up, everybody. We're a little light on questions today, which is totally fine. I'll still hang out for a little while, but just want to let you guys know there's going to be no show tomorrow, no live stream tomorrow because I'm getting a colonoscopy. Colon cancer is a leading cause of death, leading cause of cancer deaths right now amongst the young under 50. So go get yourself checked out. Put a camera in your butt. It's dope as hell to do it. I'm a little winded right now because I'm fasting for my colonoscopy tomorrow. So yeah, winded today. Those are the headlines. Winded today. No show tomorrow. Colonoscopy tomorrow. Alrighty. Jeannie says, just joined. What did the U.S. have to do with the Mexico attack? I saw some reporting that suggested that the U.S. military was helping the Mexican military with that attack, but I haven't learned any more about it than that. Obscure says, should Europe federalize? I don't know what that means. Lysa says, I thought he was the guy from X Factor. Is that a compliment? Short says, do you think right-wing governments can benefit some countries like El Salvador with Bukele? I mean, the problem with authoritarian governments is that you are hoping for a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a noble lord, a gracious lord. You are just putting your life in the hands of whether or not this person is in a good mood or not. It's the exact same reason why the billionaire class is wrong, is because if you're working at Facebook, you are at the hands of a god king that you have power over whatsoever, and just hope that they are merciful on the day that you are asking for a raise, the day that you make a fuck up, So yeah, I'm reading this book about this right now, and it's basically just outlining like why democracies are difficult, but also why they are better than everywhere else. So yeah, Ezra Klein said the most out of pocket thing I ever heard, which is that China's government is authoritarian, but they also have high-speed rail, which again is a bananas thing to say out loud, but it is accurate. If you have an authoritarian government, you can just make good things happen sometimes. That does not mean authoritarian governments are good. Percival says, live stream the colonoscopy. No. It'll just be me going like this. I'll be fucking out. Alrighty. Garden Mom says, what do you think versus healthcare? Yes or no? Yes, I am for universal healthcare. Mateo says, I make an offering of community energy for being you tomorrow. Hugs. Thank you, Mateo. Charles Martin says, save Europe. Save Europe from whom? Charles Martin. Luca says, why are working class Europeans supporting right-wing liberal parties blindly? So there has been a rise in right-wing authoritarian political movements for the past 25, 30 years or so, and it is directly linked to a coalition of billionaires who recognize that right-wing governments are better for them, and so they prop up authoritarians like Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump so that they can get regulations cut for their businesses, so that they can poison us with chemical runoff from their factories, and we're all getting cancer from our water and air and food, and also they can get their taxes cut so they can buy more golden private jets and mega mansions and private jets and private yachts and buy more lobster and fucking caviar and shit like that. And then, the rest of us will just be their fucking poor little serfs. We're desperately clinging, trying to survive in any way that we can. So yeah, it's a plot by the billionaire class. Let's replace every Republican in government with Democrats, and then let's replace every centrist Democrat with a progressive Democrat, so that we can tax the rich out of existence and we have a more fair, equitable world where we don't have to worry about buying air filters and water filters and having to make sure they're do fucking tons of research to make sure that the food we're eating is safe to consume. Anyways, Flora number 1 says, was Kirk right? You mean Charlie Kirk? No, Charlie Kirk was a liar and a con artist. I do not believe it was okay that he was assassinated. I am against all violence. But no, he was not right about anything. Lisa says, what do you think Israel's up to? Nothing good. Let's see here. Mystic says, don't forget the poor are losing healthcare. That is 100% accurate. All right. Saturnus says, do you support Russia or Ukraine in the war? I support Ukraine because Ukraine was just trying to live their fucking lives, and then Russia fucking invaded for no reason, except for because Vladimir Putin's got a fucking hard on for reconstituting the USSR for some stupid fucking reason. His brain is devolving the same way that Trump's brain is. We got to think like, we gotta go back to empire. Things were better when it's fucking empire. Brian Smith says, what exactly was Charlie Kirk wrong about? So many things. I don't have a list, but he lied about a whole bunch of shit. I can. That's an easier list for me to find right now if you would like me to find it. Charlie Kirk was wrong to say that we're less safe if the pilot is black. That's like one wrong thing that Charlie Kirk said. There you go, Brian Smith. Sociology doctor says, will Elon be charged with treason for the election interference? Can we ban him from the USA? We can, but we definitely need to change the people that are in charge of the government in order for that to happen. Right now, Republican Party is in charge of the government, and the Republican Party is the most corrupt and corruptible party that we have in America. Thereby, Elon Musk can buy his way out of any kind of legal accountability for the crimes that he has committed. Brian Smith says he didn't say that is one of the only Charlie Kirk quotes that I know by heart, Brian Smith. That, and he thought that gun violence was just the price that we pay for having a Second Amendment in America. So yeah, you can miss me with that, Brian Smith. Let's see here. Thinking says, anyone playing with neoliberal economy will be as bad Republican or Democrat, no difference. That is inaccurate thinking. I can give you 1,000 examples of where Democrats have been the party of the people and Republicans have been the party of the wealthy. And so to say that they are the same is an inaccurate thing, and you are helping the Republican Party when you say things like that. Kia Girl, I appreciate you. Flora number says, is abortion murder? I don't believe so. But even if you do think abortion is murder, you should still vote for the Democratic Party because Democratic policies increase the number of abortions. Republican policies don't stop abortions. They don't even decrease abortions. They just make pregnancy more dangerous for women. Luca says, thoughts on Tallarico? He seems to be a Democratic socialist who's great at converting MAGAs. Yeah, I like Tallarico a lot. If I lived in Texas, I would vote for him in the primary. I think Jasmine Crockett is great also. Mugi Kia says, prediction about the midterms. I think that a lot of people are going to want to vote for Democrats, and the Trump administration and the Republican Party are going to try to do shit to try and steal the election. They're either going to have the FBI seize voting machines, or they're going to use ICE to arrest Democratic voters, or they're going to close down roads in Democratic areas so people can't get to the polls. Yeah, there's a bunch of shit that they're going to try to do. Hopefully, people out there on the internet are hearing my words and are calling the Secretaries of State and Attorneys General and making sure that they have plans in place for all of the shit that Trump may try to do to try to steal the midterms. The real Finesca says, yeah, like making you have an ID. Are you being sarcastic, the real Finesca? Because making you have an ID is a voter suppression tactic. White Trash Wannabe says, America first or Palestine first? I mean, I definitely wouldn't say any nation first. America first is obviously the slogan of the MAGA movement. It was also notably the slogan of the American Nazi Party during the Second World War. So maybe we want to be aware of, where that phrase came from. White Trash Wannabe. Pepino says, are you right wing? I'm left wing. Deft Tone Lord says, ICE is not going to arrest Democratic voters. You know that ICE agents can be Democrat, correct? Yes, but the ICE is currently not. They are hostile to Democrats. They are hostile to the people that are standing up against them, and the people that are standing up against them are Democrats. Additionally, ICE and CBP are not acting like independent agencies. They're acting like Trump army. And so if Stephen Miller tells ICE to go arrest Democratic voters, they do it. Deftone Lover. Deftone Lover says, you could say Democrats are hostile towards ICE. Well, I guess I would ask you, are you hostile towards federal agents murdering citizens for no reason? Because I think it's perfectly reasonable for people to be hostile towards ICE and CBP because they are arresting people without cause, denying people their human rights, murdering people, shit like that. White Trash Wannabe says, what's wrong with it coming from the American, I don't know what SDAP means. Sphinx Egyptian says, Jared, have you heard of the Mises Institute? The founder was a part of the government society. I don't know anything about that. Chris 226, I checked on here and on YouTube. There is a mic lag and a stutter. Yeah, I'm going to have to change my setup, unfortunately. Well, it was nice while it lasted. Elots says, what do you think about the German AfD party? I believe they are the far-right party of Germany and have very intimate ties to the Nazi party, so I'm against them. Disvaso says, what are they going to do with Trump? It depends on if people do the work. Felix says, do you think Jim Shelburne will win over Texas? I don't know if he's going to win the primary or Senate seat, but he will. Texas will love James Tallarico because James Tallarico is great. Divine Fools' opinion on workers controlling their workplaces. I'm for it. Deftone Lover says, 2 deaths very clearly overstepped their job description and murdered 1 person. It is inaccurate. There are way more than just 2 deaths. Deftone Lover. We know about 2 because they were on video. They were white people and they were American citizens. But ICE has murdered and CBP have murdered way more people than that. Marty D says, how does Trump put in a global tariff after the Supreme Court rules it's unconstitutional for him to do so? So the Supreme Court argued not that him doing tariffs was illegal, but that the specifics by which he put those tariffs on was illegal. And so now he's using a different legal justification for tariffs that expires after 150 days. Elot says, they're weird. They have socialists and capitalists in the AfD. To anybody watching from Germany, the AfD is the Nazi party. Don't join them. Sphinx Egyptian says, Jared, please check out if Mrs. and John Birch are responsible for GOP wrecking the work that FDR did. I'm sure that is intimately related to the book Dark Money, Sphinx Egyptian, but I do not remember. Divine Fool says, this is officially a socialist live. I am not a socialist. I don't know why you would say that. Doma says, opinion on Netanyahu. I'm against him. He's a war criminal. He's doing a genocide against the people of Palestine. Andrew says, wouldn't him using Congress be the easy way around it? That would be the easy way around, Andrew. Deftone Lover says, where was the outrage during the previous administrations? It was there, but the difference is Obama and Biden were not encouraging ICE and CBP to go ignore people's civil rights and do murders, whereas Stephen Miller are. Let's see here. Mugia says, are you pro-sentence in some situations? No, I'm against the death penalty in all situations. Doma says, opinion on Zionism, it depends on what you mean by Zionism. If you are defining Zionism as Israel has the right to annex all the territory around them, then I am not a Zionist. But if Zionism means that the regular ass people who are living in Israel right now get to stay in Israel, then I'm a Zionist. Divine Fool says, workers controlling their workplaces is the definition of socialism. No, it's not. It is not the definition of socialism, Divine Fool. But also, what's the problem with that? What is the problem with employee-owned companies? What is the problem with having employees on the board of directors? Like, you're fucking, your class is showing, Divine Fool. If you're fucking caping for billionaires and you're not one, seems pretty sad to me. Elo says, what about Friedrich Merz? I don't know who that is. Deftone Lover says, no, Trump having to do with the problem that they created and you don't like his methods. I mean, his methods are illegal, Deftone Lover. His methods are illegal. And also, it is not a problem that Democrats created. It is a problem that Trump created. Because the Democrats and Republicans worked a bill to try to solve border issues, and then Trump told the Republicans to kill it so he could run on immigration as an issue in 2024. So, yeah. Divine Fool says, literally nothing is wrong with it. I am a socialist, LOL. Well, then you should know that socialism is not the workers owning the means to production. Socialism is when we all pool our money via taxes and then use that money to buy things that help everybody. That's the reason we call it socialized healthcare, is what you universal health care would be. Communism is when workers own the means of production. Communism is employee-owned companies. Communism is putting workers on the board of directors and shit like that. All right. Doma says thoughts on nationalism. Nationalism before patriotism. Period says what caused World War II, man? I think it was Hitler declaring war on the whole world. That shit. Peter says explain historical materialism. I don't know enough about it to do that. Yeah, Kia says, what do you think is the best economic system? I think the Scandinavian model, little socialism, little communism, little capitalism, says the German chancellor. Stop saying that just because I know that the chancellor doesn't know anything. Alrighty, thank you, moderator. Divine Fool says, please read Principles of Communism or something. I mean, I read the Communist Manifesto, so seems about it. You know what I mean? All right, Claude says, are you educated on British politics? Very, very, very little. All right, Seal Khan says, offing people who have offered people in order to teach people who have off people is strange. I don't know what that is in reference to. Jeff Lover says, the best economic system is the one with the least amount of government intervention. Jeff Lover is clear that you are a libertarian. Are you aware that libertarianism is a fake political construct created by the billionaire class so that they can become richer? Jeff Lover, that is my question to you. Please answer it. Bruss's opinion on NATO. I'm for it. We are looking at the use case of NATO. Russia is trying to annex their neighboring countries. Thereby, we need NATO to stop him. Sphinx Egyptian, I have heard you. I have seen your comment. Please stop putting it. If you want me to do more research on something, hit me up on the Discord or send me a DM. Doma says, why was American leadership not trialed in the Nuremberg trials after targeting with atomic weapons? I actually don't know too much about that, Doma. But yeah, I do not believe that it was a just thing that America did in that situation. Jeff Tone Lover says, yes, I agree that there are instances where there must be socialist institutions and economic systems. All right, well, sweet. I'm glad that you're not a full libertarian then. Jeff Tone Lover says, for example, a 40-hour work week. Yeah, which was, we can all thank unions for the 40-hour work week. Kirsten says, who did you vote for? Democrats up and down the ballots. All right. Let's see here. Samurai, my apologies to everybody on YouTube. Actually, you know what? I can just switch my mic right now. I really should have done this earlier. I apologize, everybody. Oi. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to my old setup. So sorry to everybody on Twitch. Samurai Destroyer. I'm gonna have to get to those questions in a second. Monkey Stunky, you agree that that Trump is good. You agree with your parents that Trump is good. Is there a specific reason why you think that that Trump is good, Monkey Stunky? Thin King says, but 40-hour work weeks limit USA to barely enough nukes to destroy 32 planets. More is needed. I think you're being sarcastic to be funny, Thin King. Let me know all about that. Sensei says, bro, learn about the Haymarket Massacre where communist, socialists, and trade unionists fought for a 40-hour work week. Okay, I will. John Bradley says, what do you think of Mamdani raising taxes? Do you think there will be a benefit in the aggregate? I mean, as far as I know, Mamdani's policies are to raise taxes on the wealthy and not everybody else. His whole thing is making New York City more affordable for the 99%. So I think it's unlikely that he would do a sort of like a blanket raising taxes on everybody. I know there's a very specific issue with property taxes in order to fill a budget deficit left by the Adams administration. So yes, hopefully there will be some policies to correct the people in the 99% who would potentially be hurt by an increase in property taxes. Deftone Lover says it relies on people to be moral, which doesn't work. I disagree with that, Deftone Lover. Are you still here? I'd love to talk to you more about that. Suri says, so we should have let more narcos in if we had kept Biden's border policy. Biden's border policy was not to let drug traffickers in, Suri. Let's see here. All right, Deftone Lover, you are still here. Did you hear the thing that I said about disagreeing with you about socialism needing people to be moral? Suri said, already did that one. Deftone Lover says Mamdani needs to cut spending. Yeah, or he can tax the rich. Divine Fool says, please Google definition of socialism. It does not take long, for the love of God. I know enough about it, Divine Fool. Also, I don't truck in semantic arguments. Like, I don't need to yell at each other about what the word socialism versus communism means. Can we just agree on what would be good policy going forward? Crollo Truther says, do you know anything about Spanish politics? Very, very little. Deftone Lover says, what I said about socialism being moral refers to socialism relying on collective ownership. Yes, but that's only if you're looking at totalitarian government socialism, whereas you can have socialist policies like things like the post office, not the post office, things like public education, paved roads, the fire department, the police, without going full socialist. And as far as I know, there is no mainstream left-wing political thinker that is trying to institute full totalitarian governmental socialism. All right, Triska, thank you so much for helping me reach my most recent gift goal. All right, let's go over to High Bears because we are almost at an hour, and High Bears are absolutely my favorite of all the gift goals to have. Alrighty, period says, didn't Biden try to work with multiple Republicans and pass a bill that was shut down by Trump? Yes, period. That is 100% accurate. All right, lady, did that one already. Jeff Lover says, yeah, I'm not anti-socialist institutions, just it as the supreme system of governments. Yeah, I don't think that anybody's arguing for that, Deftone Lover. The issue that I have with people that throw around words like socialist, communist, Zionist, etc., is that they're kind of like operating on a very specific definition that not a lot of people fall under. And so a lot of good people who are very reasonable fall into that category in a way that sort of like colors them negatively for people that might otherwise listen to the things that they say in good faith. Alrighty, Suri says, very disingenuous to just answer Biden and Porter he wasn't to let narcos in. Sure, on paper, says Suri. Okay, Suri, were you mad at Trump for killing the bipartisan immigration bill to try to address some of these issues? Are you mad at Trump and the Republican Party for killing their bipartisan immigration bill because they wanted to run on immigration as an issue in 2024? Or do you only hate immigrants when a Democrat is in office? I am just curious how you feel about that. All right, everybody, I am feeling real fucking loosey-goosey right now because I am fasting for my colonoscopy tomorrow. Everybody put a camera in your butt because colon cancer is the #1 cancer killer in America for people under 50. So everybody's got to put a camera in their butt and check. So I'm putting a camera in my butt tomorrow. Apparently you're supposed to have a doctor do it, which is completely different than the way that I have been doing it. But yeah, so gonna get my colonoscopy tomorrow. There's gonna be no show tomorrow. No show tomorrow because again, I'm doing camera in butt stuff. John Bradley says, do you think they could re-propose their immigration bill? I don't think that they could, but they will not. The Republican Party won't.
I believe that if we get more Democrats in office, they're going to want to rewrite that bill to make it a little bit more what Democrats want as opposed to being more what Republicans want, which is what the bill was during the Biden administration. Scott Clower says, do you like photography? Sure, why not? D. Scott, thank you, I appreciate that. Goat Boy says, what's your opinion on Obama? I thought Obama was great. You know, not perfect, but great. Waylon says you should live stream it. Everybody's asking for that. Carmine says show canceled due to private viewing. That's fucking hilarious, Carmine. 10 out of 10. I am fucking... You know, that sometimes people fast for like weeks. How do fucking people fast for like weeks, man? All right. Samurai Destroyer, I did answer your question, but sorry, I was having a microphone issue. Goat Boy, I answered that one already. John Bradley says, where do you think conservatives and Democrats have agreement on immigration reform? That is a really good question, John Bradley. Let me get to that in a hot second. I want to get over to Samurai Destroyer real quick. So, yeah, I do think that James Talarico is the right kind of Christian, you know, feed the hungry, house the homeless, heal the sick, love thy neighbor, shit like that. And also, how important are Christian faith and Christian voters for the Democrats? I don't know how necessary that demographic is. The tenets of real Christianity are what the Democrats run on, and so more Christians should follow them. Average Joe, great to see you again. Did I just hear someone being more actually about definitions than myself? Yeah, as a matter of fact, you and this fucking dude over here is fucking taking me to task for my definitions of communism and socialism. Who the fuck is it? Where are you? Divine Fool, join the Discord so that you and Average Joe can fucking go nuts on semantics. Leave me out of it, man. Alrighty. Goat Boy, stop asking that question. I answered it already. I think Obama's great. Not perfect, but great. Did you get your answer, Goat Boy? Have you heard me? Right. Scott says the transmission flush they have you drink is the worst part. I'm a colonoscopy expert, guys. I think this is my 5th or 6th colonoscopy. So yeah, I know all about it, guys. Deftone Lover says I love arguing semantics. All right, well then, fucking get over to the Discord. You know, Average Joe loves it. So talk to Average Joe about it. He's gonna fucking dig it, man. Like cray. Okay, Shork says, bro, does them for fun. No, I would love to not have to do them, but when you find precancerous polyps in your colon, you have to do them like every 4 years. You're true to this. You're not new to this. Excellent, Dan Blackroyd. Alrighty. Scrolling up. Goat Boy says, Obama 2028, for real. Unfortunately, not for constitutional, because it is illegal for people to run for president for a 3rd term. D. Scott, let me ask you this, since you seem to be an old colonoscopy head. Do you chug or do you sip the drink? Because I wonder what's more effective. I feel like sipping is probably better than chugging. You know, but I could be wrong about that. Ruslick says, Obama had control of Congress. I feel like he could have done more. Well, he only had control of Congress for about 8 months, and he passed the Affordable Care Act, which made it illegal for insurance companies to discriminate against you for having pre-existing conditions, which means that there are people alive today because of the Affordable Care Act. So I think he did a pretty good job with the 8 months that he had. Alrighty. Goat Boy says, well, the PDF Orange Man might try to run again. So, well, here's the thing. The people that would stop Trump from running for a 3rd term are all Republicans. So they are potentially just going to let him, but they will not let Obama. Mateo says, why do you give them your energy? Psychologists say they're cult recruited. Who am I giving my energy to? That's cult recruited, Mateo. Pinch nose and chug in several gulps just to get it over with faster. Yeah, but nobody can tell me if that's better, though, if that cleans you out better. Andrew says, so are we getting new Supreme Court justices now? Very likely. We are very likely going to see Alito and Thomas retire so that Trump can get some more fucking Brett Kavanaughs in there. Mateo says, Trump voters, why debate them? I don't debate with Trump voters. I engage with them. and I try to convince them that my policies are better for everybody, including themselves, and that Democrats are not evil. And so maybe they can start to see people on the left as human beings who want the same things as they want, and then maybe that can be step one to them not being in a cult anymore. Goat Boy says, I know it's like 99.9% not going to happen, but would you support Obama 2028 in theory? I mean, if he wins the primary, sure. I probably wouldn't vote for him in the primary, though. It's the Rocketeer says that's why you got to mix it with Sprite. But doesn't that dilute it in a way that no longer makes it effective? I have a hard time believing that my gastroenterologist would be cool with me mixing my poop drink with Sprite. Lady Lisa says, why are conservatives brainwashed into believing that Democrats are evil? Right-wing propaganda. The right-wing agenda of convincing people that Democrats are stupid and evil and a Satanist cabal, it has a very long history. It's been going on for a very long time. And it has a lot of funding behind it, a lot of billionaire dollars behind that project. So, yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to break out of information spheres like that. Alrighty. It's the Rocketeer says, my gastro set told me that it was fine. Well, I'm skeptical. Let's see here. Cap Mister says, how do you feel about the ANC? I don't know what the ANC is. Daniel Blackwood says, Samuel Alito has a book coming out in October. He's likely to retire before then so that he can tour. 100% accurate, Dan Blackwood. I also heard that on Strict Scrutiny. Did you come up with that yourself, or did you also hear that on Strict Scrutiny, Dan Blackwood? Do we have the same podcast listening schedules? Ready. VFJJ says, I think most Republicans think Dems are stupid, not evil. I think they think they're both. VFFFJ. Dan Blackwood says, plus Alito probably wants to retire before the midterms when Trump is likely to lose control of the House or the Senate. Yes, that is accurate, Dan Blackwood. All right, everybody. I am African National Congress. Are you talking about American politics? I will talk about international politics where I know about it, but I don't know enough. I don't know nearly enough about the African National Congress to say anything about it. Goat Boy says, I think Josh Shapiro is the best possible Democratic candidate for 28. What do you think? I like Josh Shapiro a lot. I like Bashir a lot. I like Chris Murphy a lot. But really, the question of who I'm going to support in the primary, I think is less substantive than who are you going to support in the general. Because the general election is where we all need to be supporting the Democratic Party. Because we need to send a message to the billionaire class. We need to send a message to the Republican Party that this shit is not going to fly anymore. That we are fucking tired of the wealthy stealing all of the gains of our productivity. We are tired of all living like we're fucking poor. And we're tired of being poor if we're poor. We're tired of not being able to afford houses and healthcare and fucking food anymore. And a vote for the Democratic Party sends that message to the billionaire class. Alrighty. John Bradley says, hasn't there been dehumanization on both sides? Over 40% are no longer party affiliated because of it. I disagree with that, John Bradley. If you look at the rhetoric coming out of mainstream media versus right-wing media, the difference is clear. Mainstream media is being responsible adults. They're not calling, not name-calling any Democratic voters or any Republican voters or Republican politicians. Whereas if you listen to right-wing talk radio or Fox News for the last 50 years, it has just been Democrats, evil, demon rats, and they make no distinction between the politicians and the voters. Now, you could make an argument that the rhetoric has gotten a little spicier on both sides in more recent years, but there again, we are very, very rarely talking about the voters, with some exceptions, with Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables and shit like that. But mostly, Democratic politicians or Democratic talking heads will talk about Republican politicians and Republican talking heads being fascists or being Nazis. And again, I don't even know if I would call that spicy so much as accurate. Like the historical connections between what was going on in Germany in the 1930s and 40s and what's going on in America right now are multitudinous. Too much so to ignore. Demasiado. I'm learning Spanish, you guys. And I'm loopy as hell from fasting. So you guys are getting a real special Jarrett today. Lauren, what's up? Great to see you again. No show tomorrow because I'm getting a colonoscopy, and I'm feeling really weird today because I am fasting for my colonoscopy. All right, so I forget even what I was talking about. So yeah, the dehumanization thing. Yeah. And as Democrats and left-leaning talking heads like myself have been more accurately describing people on the right as being fascist adjacent, mostly leaving the voters out of it, you have seen an even more escalation in how the right is referring to the left. They're saying that we're less than human. They're saying that we're vermin. They're saying that we're parasites. They're saying that we're an infectious disease. And there has been more violence against the left because of it. A judge's house got burned down. A couple of state senators in Minnesota got murdered because of it. So yeah, there we go. Long answer. Good Lord, it almost feels like I took something fun because of how loopy I'm feeling because of calorie deficit. Ruslik says, do you think a woman can win as president, or is that a lost cause? I 100% think that a woman can win as president. It might be a little harder because there is some entrenched misogyny in the American public, and it is very easy to scapegoat female candidates, especially if they're running on the left. But yeah, I 100% think that we can. With the right woman, I think that they can be, you would argue before 2007 that a black man could not be president in America, but then we had a unique talent in Barack Obama. I think that if we get another unique talent like Barack Obama, we could see anybody become president. Irvin says, Israel control America. Israel does not control America, Irvin. Money controls America. And AIPAC has a lot of it, but so does the Heritage Foundation, and so does the Federalist Society. Carbine says, what are you eating after it's all over? I've actually been planning that. I got a very simple and smart probiotic meal planned for afterwards. Roast chicken, rice, a little bit of steamed broccoli, some kimchi, cap it all off with little grape nuts and yogurt parfait dessert. Mwah! LJ says, hello there. How is this debate helping with making progress in the country? I mean, it's just talking. Well, I'm not debating. I'm here answering questions, LJ. If you would like to know about making progress, then feel free to ask, because I answer that question too. Radu Batsatu says, all protests were made by the left. It's crazy to say that the right is worse than left. I never said that all protests... First of all, not all protests are not made by the left, Radu. There are plenty of protests that happen on the right. And... the left is better than the right. I never said that the right is worse than the left. I said very specific things about the difference between Republicans and Democrats and left-wing people and right-wing people. Yeah, if you want to talk about it, Radu, I'm happy to answer your questions. LG says, I mean, it's better than doing something compared to talking. I don't know what that means, LJ. Oh no, the sound cut out. Is it back? Is it back? LJ says, I'm not lefty or righty. I walk away if it's wrongy. Okay. Do you have a question, LJ? Righty. Sphinx Egyptian says, what's wrong with protests? That's my question. But this guy said, but Radu said that all protests happen on the left, which is just inaccurate. And also, even if it was true, it's not a bad thing for protests to happen. All right, everybody. All right, LJ and everybody who I've been engaging with on the live today. Goat Boy says, do you support Kamala for 2028? Personally, I think her legacy is stained. I also kind of think that her legacy is stained, Yeah, and it's really unfair. It's really unfair to her that she was given this moonshot opportunity to run for president in 107 days, which was virtually impossible. And then that ruined her chances of becoming president ever, Yeah, it kind of sucks for her. But also, I think that people are really sore about 24. And so I don't think that they're going to truck with her being the nominee. That's just my thinks. That's my thinks. Andrew says, I had never seen the leftists protests involve human shit in their own hands. That is accurate, Andrew. All right, I gotta get out of here because I'm fucking loopy as hell from fasting for my colonoscopy, everybody. All right. Goat Boy. Yeah, Gavin is definitely not my number one candidate either, but I'll definitely vote for him over any Republican. That's for darn sure. LJ says, Charlie Kirk just debated, never did anything for the country. I mean, what happens to employment US? Well, LJ, I'm not going to argue with you over that. I also think that Charlie Kirk was negative for the country. All right, everybody. A reminder that there is no show tomorrow because I'm getting my colonoscopy, and that I was weird today because I'm getting a colonoscopy. Because I'm getting a colonoscopy tomorrow, so I've been fasting, and I'm loopy as hell. If you want to support the show, financially, you can, but you don't have to. I know that we're all struggling, but if you have the will and you have the means, then the mechanisms are there. You can send gifts on TikTok. You can send emotes on Twitch. You can be a super fan on TikTok. You can become a subscriber on Twitch. And on Twitch, if you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe for free. Totally free for you. Helps me out a ton. If there were any questions I was not able to get to on this live stream, feel free to reach out to me. That goes for everybody that I was engaging with here on the live stream. I want you guys to use me as a resource to become more involved and more informed about politics. So if there's anything I can do to do that, I want to. Use me and abuse me. Use it me until you use me up. Excuse me. Yeah, you can shoot me a DM. DMs are open. You can email me through my website. You can hit me up via my Discord channel. The Discord also has a lot of great recommendations for civic actions that you can take to try to help, great organizations for you to join, and recommendations for books and podcasts. You can also join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month if you want to be a supporter that way. And a special shout out to all of my regular financiers and patrons and contributors: Robert, Shannon, Carmine, Patrick, Melissa, the two Seans, Dan Blackroyd, Cliff, Lauren, Triska, and It's the Rocketeer. And lastly, just my heartfelt plea for y'all to do the work. If us doing the work is the only way that we're going to get out of this, y'all. So let's all do the work so that we can get out of this, guys. Alrighty. Any final questions that I want to get to here? Goat Boy says, do you agree that John McCain is the last good Republican? Yeah, basically. Alrighty. Yep. All right. Looks like we're all caught up on. Hold on a second. LJ says, these people agreeing on women's presidency. Where is the development in the country itself? I mean, I think her name is Sheinbaum, right? President of Mexico. I'm sure that I could Google some policies that we would all agree are good that she is doing. All right, everybody. Do the work. Be good to each other. You don't have to be a dick to do the work. Be good to yourselves. Self-care is part of the work. And I will see you guys not tomorrow, on Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.